We're back. It wasn't we before, but now it is we, because I had a son 22 years ago, and this is Max.
Hi y'all, I'm Max.
Thank you for helping me cook.
Of course.
Now you've done this before.
Yeah, but it has been a really long time.
Okay, so for purposes of this video, I'm trying to say crispy Cajun crickets are so easy, even if you've never done it before, you can do it.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, because it's been long enough that
maybe a decade. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. So what we have here are some roasted crickets, and we'll show you those if the camera's not on them. Yep, there we go. So these are house crickets. You purchase them live, and then you freeze them. What I like to do is knock off the legs and the antennae, and I like to get subadult crickets. So they're adult size, but they don't have their wings yet. The presence of legs, wings, and antennae cause two problems. After you've roasted them, which we do for about 30 minutes in a 350-degree oven, those body parts, especially the antennae and the legs, break off easily. They get all over your kitchen. It's more stuff for vermin to come after later and for you to clean up. That's the first problem. The second problem is, if I've worked really, really hard to convince someone that eating bugs is cool and they finally nervously do it and they get a leg caught between their teeth, doesn't matter that they get steak gristle caught between their teeth and that doesn't bother them. The point is, I want the experience to be pleasant. So by making it just the body of the cricket, nothing else to worry about, I achieve that goal. So we're going to cook some crispy Cajun crickets now. Max is going to go ahead and start by putting a pat of butter in a pan on kind of a low to medium heat. Max is going to put 1 pat of butter in this little skillet, and we'll add the crickets later. So just to recap, you get your crickets live, you freeze them. You can try with a slotted colander to knock some legs and antennae off when they're frozen, but they will get soft very quickly. So most of that work happens, again, in a colander after you've roasted them for about half an hour at about 350 degrees. Ovens vary, of course. So we've got roasted crickets, and once that butter is hot, Max will tell me, and he'll put some crickets in. And then he'll stir them, and he'll add a little seasoning. So I don't know where we are on that, but
I think we look pretty good.
okay, great. I did say earlier that we primarily, in our Bug Appetit gallery at the Audubon Butterfly Garden and Insectarium, used house crickets, mealworms, and waxworms. Because these 3 species are commercially farmed, any of you watching this can buy as many as you want and have a nice big insect event tomorrow if you'd like to. But you might also decide to do some foraging. And we'll talk about foraging in just a minute. But let me back up one step and say there is a class of people who should not eat insects. If you have a shellfish allergy, you probably will be allergic to insects as well, and you should avoid eating them. There are a couple of other considerations when you're eating insects. One is that some species have chemicals in them that you just can't cook out. Now, if you know anything about insect eating in Mexico, Oaxaca, among many other edible insects, loves to serve stink bugs. Well, you think to yourself, how could something called a stink bug, if you've ever smelled it, how could something that smells like a stink bug be tasty? Well, if you like things that are a little on the bitter side or a little acrid, stink bugs are fine. The fact of the matter is that some insects do have chemicals in them that are bad for you and that will not denature with heat, or that just taste bad and won't taste any differently no matter how you cook them. The third thing that you need to keep in mind is there are some structures on insects that might actually hurt on the inside of your mouth when you try to chew them, or they might be just inedible, like a popcorn kernel or an artichoke leaf. And in those cases, you may just have a species that might taste good but not be accessible, for lack of a better term. There are health code considerations depending on where you live when you're serving food, but I will tell you that in about 25 years of doing this, mainly most municipalities are interested in sanitation and hold safe temperatures. The fact that you're cooking insects hasn't really come to anybody's radar yet on a city, state, or federal level in the manner that, say, beef or poultry have with regard to inspecting the stuff, etc., etc. So you might want to check with the legal team if you're getting ready to serve bugs to a lot of people and make sure you've got your bases covered. But in my experience, it's been pretty easy to take care of things so long as you follow the normal ordinances and regulations. So I said a moment ago I was going to get back to foraging. Well, if you're going to go out and look for bugs, I would suggest you find things that are very large, very slow, hyperabundant, or that aggregate. Otherwise, you're going to burn a lot more calories than you get back. Now, I've got a little foreshadowing here about the next thing that's going to get cooked. But the fact of the matter is, if you're out and about, You also want to look for things that are green or brown as a very general rule. These are insects that are well camouflaged, and they're trying to hide from vertebrate insectivores because they taste good, in the main. And so things that are aposematically colored are generally the ones that you should avoid. Think about your classic monarch butterfly or yellow jacket. These alternating dark and bright colors usually mean I taste really bad or I'm going to sting you if you try to come after me. So if you're foraging, those are some good tips to keep in mind. Now I'm going to check back with my sous chef here. How's it going?
I think it's going good.
Okay.
They are getting fried nice, and I think they'll be done in a minute or two.
A minute or two? These people are ready to go now. We better cut the camera and do that magic trick. All right, Max says they're ready, so we're going to plate. I'll tell you that we're being very simple here. Again, pretending like I was at work. I've got a buffet going. I'm just trying to put a bunch of cooked crickets in a bowl so that I can spoon out myself about 4 or 5, you know, a small handful to our guests at a time. So let's see, I think if we do this, we might be able to show them off pretty well. They cool off pretty quickly, and as I said, a nice sanitary and safe way to do this is for the person you have behind the table or counter to take a small spoon and take a little handful and serve them up. So, Max, you said this is the first time you've cooked these in 10 years?
I think so.
All right, well, I'm not going to give you a bigger bite than me because I happen to like them also. But, yeah, they're hot, huh?
Yeah.
And by the way, I will say, getting back to what bugs taste like, which we talked about earlier, I liken roasted crickets to sunflower seeds. And since we've put a little seasonal on them, it's kind of like a barbecued sunflower seed.
Yeah.
And
How about that?
nice job.
Cool.
That's some solid cooking. Thank you, Max.
Yeah, of course. That's good stuff.
All right, guys, I'm going to cook one more thing for you in a minute.